What I like the most that made me to be happier is the way that NNPC is thinking of hiring a competent hand to manage and operate these refineries. So NNPC will not be the one to operate these rehabilitated refineries, which I think is the game changer there. Because when you have experienced operator that have global experience, so you have to just give them the chance to, and then they run the system. Because they have take responsibility, they have the operational control and make decisions that affect the production, even for issue of procurement. So they are the ones to take responsibility of that. So NPC will not involve directly in the operation because they are giving the mandate to the operator. So well, we are not saying that NNPC will not be there to supervise as the owner, but there will be less interference. That way we can leverage their expertise and optimize the operation of the refinery. So NNPC will still be the one to appoint maybe the managing director, the financial controller of the refineries. This is also common in the upstream value chain of the petroleum sector. So you see a lot of fields are being developed and produced by independent operator, not the owner of the field. So in refining business is also common practice. So that's what gave me the hope that this time around is going to be different. So the minimal viable operating capacity of refinery is 60%. So this is the minimum.
Okay, that's the minimum.
So for it to be viable, it's not an exciting thing to operate at 60%. We are looking at 90-95% operating capacity, and that's the statistics I gave you, because when you are doing the refining, you can get various products. You can get AGO, DPK, you can get naphtha, and so many components they can get. You may not easily get the PMS, the petrol, from the primary unit of distillation, because PMS is derived by blending some components, which sometimes the refineries may not have those components, may have to procure it from outside and then blend it to generate. So if we are to operate at 90%, which according to what you said, we are not in the old refinery in Port Harcourt, then it's not good thing. And the analogy, the statistics I gave you is that at 90%, that's when we can do 8.6 million liters of oil products. And this product, including the PMS, the DPK, the AGO, the naphtha, of all products, 8.6 million. But if you look at the Nigerian consumption of daily PMS, consumption, we're talking about more than 50 million liters of PMS alone. And this one is doing, of all product, 8.6 million. So it's something to jubilate. But if you look at the quantity that is added, is insignificant, especially what Nigerians care the most, which is PMS.
But the consumption is said to have come down, really, because of the high cost of petrol.
Yeah, but if consumption of petrol reduces, it means that the economy is going down. Because you need that kind of consumption, people to move from here and there. It means that there are so many latent demand and latent production that people are not doing. So people would rather not do certain businesses, certain transportation, just to avoid the costs.
Not because they really don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we call it latent. It's there, but you're not doing it because there is cost attached to that. So it makes people to suspend and delay spending. So it reduces the aggregate demand in the economy, which further shrinks the economy further down. We might be jubilating as well that we have 3.49 increase in the GDP in the last quarter of this year. But if you look at the most important indicators, which are inflation and exchange rate, which directly affect the poor, these things, the economy is not doing well. So there's a big barrier between what's happened at the macro level and the micro level. So the reduction in consumption, even if there is reduction, because the consumption of PMS has inelastic demand, meaning that it is necessary. People are willing to even put off other spendings just to afford or to pay the PMS. So this refinery may not also have to rely on what it produces, because it can procure other components from other refineries, from other petrochemical plants, and buy it and then blend. And that's why we have the LMA petrochemical, if I get that name correctly, petrochemical plants, where this particular refinery can go and buy these components and blend. So I learned that there's some arrangement where the particular refinery can buy some of these components that is needed to produce PMS, so they can do that. So they can get that at cheaper rate. They can even go elsewhere to find a cheaper component to produce a cheaper PMS. And that's why the GCO of NNPC, Mele Kyari, said the capacity of that refinery now is about 200 trucks. So this 200 trucks is not of only PMS. It's of all products combined. So we don't know what's the proportion of PMS and other products. So that's what we are looking at. That is not certain yet.
Okay, we'll find out in the coming days, really. But let's look at the likely impact of this on supply, and of course price of petroleum products. Some of the papers reported that this will, on the long run, bring the price to about 900 naira per liter. If that happens, is it cheering news?
Yeah. So you see, this is an open market, so anything is possible, and hence the beauty of it. So there are a lot of shocks and uncertainties up there, so we can only speculate. But if you look at the situation, we already have the Dangote refinery operating, and now we have these upcoming refineries. So let's assume the best scenario. All these refineries come on stream, and then if you see the highest quantity that they can supply to the market is about 22 million liters in a day. And add that to what Dangote can do, which is far above the Nigerian daily consumption. So we're going to have excess PMS. And when you have excess supply, what happens to the price? So the price comes down. So we are going to see a situation where the country will be wet with refined petroleum. So there's going to be excess supply of the product, which brings the price down. So Nigerians will have to choose, or even the marketers will have to choose which refineries to go. And they have so many refineries closer to you. Shall I go to Kaduna? Shall I go to Wari? Shall I go to Port Harcourt? Shall I go to Lagos? Which is closer to me for cost efficiency, to reduce my costs, so that I can sell at cheaper rate, so that people will come to my filling station. So this kind of competition,
you have more customers coming to patronize you.
Exactly. Time will come when we become net exporters of refined petroleum. So we'll be exporting PMS. We'll be generating foreign exchange from PMS. And if we can have that, we can also improve the value of the naira, because we have more of the dollars. So that will reduce the inflation further down, and then the cost of running the refineries, because they are valued in dollar. It's international business, so it's a standard, it's level. And that will also increase the contribution of oil sector to the GDP. It's so surprising that more than 95% of our foreign exchange income comes from the oil sector, but when it comes to the contributor to the GDP in the last quarter is about 5%, which is grossly inadequate. So we're going to see the role of the oil sector playing going to be significant in the GDP. For the pricing directly, like I say, we have to look at the market variables, the factors. One of the biggest factor there is the exchange rate. If the exchange rate is favorable, in this case compared to the dollar, then we're going to have a cheaper petroleum. If dollar is expensive, of course petrol will be expensive. So our petrol is as expensive as the dollar. So you can just look up and see the dollar, what's going on with the dollar, and then you can predict what's going to happen with the petrol, because everything is tied to it. Another thing is the price of the crude oil. If you recall, this week, Dangote refinery announced that they're cutting down about 20 naira per liter as the sale price. And that's courtesy of the crude oil price going down, making it cheaper. So whenever one of these variables changes, so the price at the filling station will also change. So these are some of the variables. And then I talk about the competition. The competition is going to be there. Everyone wants to sell faster. Everyone wants to be the one with the customers. And the prices, people will be comparing, refineries will be comparing their prices. How much is he selling? How much is he selling? Let me reduce it. Let me cut down 1 naira, 2 naira. And that way, the customers, the consumers will benefit from it.
Okay, so because many have talked about the monopoly, really, when it was just the Dangote refinery that everyone is actually depending on for refined petroleum products, particularly in the country, local refining. And many have said that even this coming on board of the Port Harcourt refinery would actually have an impact on this importation of refined petroleum products. Do you think this will happen? Because I remember when Dangote was even saying the country should allow him to be the only supplier of the product, and many kicked against it, saying no, you can't stop importation of petrol. So let's look at what you think as an expert in this field.
Well, the importation is still ongoing because if you look at the Dangote, is not still fulfilling the local demand, but with this one, highest we can get, well, if I have to speculate, maybe you can get 2-3 million liters from this old refinery. You remember it was built 1965, and the size is small. But if you look at the surge in the consumption, I don't know where you get the figure that the demand has reduced, but still the consumption is there. I don't think with this only one refinery coming on board, the need for importation will go away, meaning that we'll still continue to import at the interim. But what I see in the future is that because petroleum production is lucrative, I mean, so refining is lucrative in Nigeria, we're going to see more investors coming. They've seen what happened. And we look at the neighboring countries where they are buying at higher costs. So we're going to have people invest in Nigeria and selling to those countries. But the big question is, where do we get the crude oil? Because Nigeria has, or I believe its NNPC has allocated 445,000 barrels daily for all local refineries. And these are refineries, irrespective of ownership. As long as you're a local refiner, so you have access to this crude oil. So this will also attract investors to come in. And now Dangote being the sole person benefiting from this domestic crude supply, is now have a competitor. So this 445,000 barrels will be shared among all the refineries, depending on their efficiency, their production capacity. And I think another good news for Nigeria is that the marine costs is out of the calculation now, because the cost of bringing it via the ship, offloading it, transporting it to the depot, and storing it in a tank will pay you. You have to pay for that.
The landing cost,
and that has to be transferred to the customer. So that is all removed. So we are going to see, at the current market conditions, it's possible to have a price of petrol around 900 naira range.
There's often the saying, really, that anything that goes up in Nigeria never comes down, really. But if we see this happening in the petrol sector, and we have the price of coming down, do you think this is going to have effect on overall economy, particularly when it comes to transportation costs, which have risen as a result of high cost of petrol, and then the fact that food prices, of course, have also gone up as a result of the factoring in the transportation cost of moving goods or farm products from wherever they're produced to the marketplace?
Yeah, inflation, of course, definitely will go down, because it's transportation is a significant component of every pricing. So when we have these options, the welfare of Nigerians will improve, because we are as rich as the naira, and the value of naira is determined by the inflation. If there is high inflation, the value of naira is reduced. The purchasing power of income you have is going to go low. But if inflation reduces, then the purchasing power of your income increases. So one of the things that I like about these dispersed refineries in Nigeria, it brings the product closer to people. So people can get this product from the source rather than waiting it from a far distance. And then we can also address shocks or shortages in supply, because we have the refineries around us. Right. So we have to say there is hope looking forward, because having refineries is a good thing, and it's what we've been hoping for. But what we don't know is, how do they go about managing the Wari, Kaduna rehabilitation? And then remember, the Boa guy is also doing some refineries coming up soon. And then we have other modular refineries. So I think this is good news for the economy, because we're going to reduce the importation. Because if you look at our import basket, more than 50% of our importation from the petroleum products. And then we can have other byproducts that will be used to boost our industries. And then we can even export those byproducts.
You know, the worry for many, really, because at the global level, people are actually moving away from fossil fuel-driven economy, really, and are moving into renewable energy and all that. And see how we're jubilating over, you know, fossil fuel energy. How do you think we can also, you know, transit to renewable energy in the long run, in line with global practice?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the modern transition, we don't have to necessarily align to the world, because we have to look at our peculiar situation, opportunities, and see what's best for us. We have more natural gas than crude oil in Nigeria, and we have not tapped a significant part of that. So dumping or just leaving and ignoring our reserves, I don't think is economical. So we're going to have a different transition around the world this time around. So instead of having a unanimous movement from one source of energy to another all at once, we're going to have a disparity in terms of energy source, energy mix around the world. Because Africa, we still have to rely on oil. Because when you look at versatility of the oil, with oil you can get so many products. It's not only petrol, it's not only for transport. And then general acceptance. It's generally accepted on all of our technology, all our equipment. They are designed for petrol, so it's going to be very difficult to move at once. And when you look at the expensive nature of these renewables
as well,
Nigerians and Africans cannot afford it. So it's up to us now to utilize our natural resources before thinking of what next.
All right. We must thank you very much for your thoughts on this one. We've been looking at the commencement of production of Port Harcourt Refinery, and our guest has been Dr. Ahmed Adamu, an associate professor of petroleum economy, giving us all the details and what to expect going forward. We must thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
All right. At this